one of the main questions I see, or one of the main problems, I guess, that a lot of artists have is the air pressure, and they always ask, what kind of air pressure should I use? And this is a tough question to answer because it just depends on so much stuff. But in order to explain how much air pressure you should use, we need to first explain how the airbrush works, and so you understand and have a basic comprehension of what's going on with the air and the paint. That way you get a good understanding of what you should be doing and how much you should be using. So here we have the basic layout of the airbrush, and I just want to explain to you how an airbrush works. As you can see here, we have the nozzle highlighted in red and the needle highlighted in blue. And what we'll do is we'll add some paint at the top, and that's where your paint cup is. And then we'll illustrate where the airflow comes in and how it gets distributed around the nozzle. So basically what happens is when you pull back on the needle, it creates a gap between the needle and the nozzle. The airflow coming out of the nozzle pulls the paint from out of that gap, and that's basically how an airbrush works. So there's two very big things that matter a lot when you're using this, and that's how big the gap is and how thick your paint is. And that's where we come back over here. I have an Iwata HPCS here, so I'm gonna illustrate here the different types of paint and the different types of air pressure can affect what you're doing on an airbrush. So what I've done here is I've set up a paper towel here on a board to simulate a more porous surface such as a t-shirt, and then I have a canvas set up over here, which is just a regular canvas. I've coated it with white and it's just sitting here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take some Wicked Detail Black, this right here. We're going to take some of this and we're going to pour it into our HPCS here, just straight out of the bottle. And of course we don't want to fill it all the way, we're just going to fill it about a quarter of the way, I guess. We're going to put our cap back on here, like so. Make sure it's nice. Make sure it's not clogged. And again, I want to go back over here to our air pressure. And you can see right now it is set at about a little bit over 60. And it drops right to 60 right when I push it right below. So that's about 60 psi. And I just want to show you that straight out of the bottle, okay? This is not modified in any way. We'll go over here on the paper towel and I'll do a dagger stroke for you. And as you can see, it comes out pretty good. Nothing too crazy. And then we'll do it over here. And as you can see over here, there's a splatter and splitting. You can see right there, it's not really all the way full. So that's 60 pounds of pressure. Now we're going to go ahead and reset this pressure gauge. We're going to let all the pressure out. And then we're going to set it at about 40. A little bit over 40 there. When you push it, it drops right below. That's about good. Again, we're going to try the same dagger stroke in here. And you can see it's a little bit less overspray and it's more fine. So now let's try it over here. As you can see, it still kind of has the same, it just doesn't really seem to cover all the way. You got a little bit of splatter there. As you can see, it just doesn't seem to cover all the way. Okay. So that's 40 pounds of pressure without reducing the paint or anything. So now we're going to take this again. We're going to reset it all the way down. And we're going to set it to about 30 pounds of pressure. That's so. Okay, now we're going to go back over here and now when you start spraying this one, you'll notice it'll start spitting, and you can still get a line on there, but it requires a lot more work and you really have to pull back on the trigger. Now we'll move over to the canvas. Now, again, it's still a little bit of splatter going on, but it's not as bad. But paint is really just not flowing through very good at this much pressure. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take what's left of in there. So we're going to take some high performance reducer here. And we're going to just about almost top this off here. I'm not going to change the air pressure. Going to mix this up pretty good. Just give it a good shake. Make sure you cover the top hole. You don't spill paint everywhere. Better get that initial spray out and pull back on the trigger from the back so you get the paint flowing through. And right away you should be able to notice that paint flows through a lot much smoother. So we're going to try it. Now we're going to move up to the top here on our paper towel here. As you can see, it just flows really smooth, but it's just not as black. But it does, you know, if you go back and if you go right back over those, it'll get right black. But you can see right away that there's just so much more control to this than before, and paint's just flowing through so much better. So now we're going to try on the canvas with our slightly reduced paint here. It's about 20 psi. I mean 30 psi. This is about 30 psi, remember. And it's just horrible coverage and splatter everywhere. So you can see here, it's just not very good looking. Porous surfaces, great. Non-porous, not so great. So that's pretty much that. We're going to raise the pressure here. And we're going to turn it back up to 60 here. Turn it right back up to 60 there. And again, we're going to show you on here, on the paper towel here. Now, as you can see on the paper towel, this paint is just flowing through amazing. There's lines on, you know, I can make a fine line as fine as a pencil, you know, and I can just play with it all day. Now, if I move over to the canvas over here and I, you know, if I'm careful, I could get the same kind of effect, but it takes a lot of work. And if I am even attempted getting anywhere close, there's splatter, there's just a lot of no-nos. So lastly, I want to show you really, really reduced paint. And so we're going to dump most of this out. We're going to leave about a quarter of it in there, and this is already reduced, mind you. So then we're going to take about that quarter that's left in there, and we're going to just add a little bit more of this reducer here. And we obviously know this is not going to work on the canvas with such a high pressure. So we're going to turn this all the way down, and we're going to put about 20 pounds of pressure on there. Just a really light spray. Get that paint flowing. And now I want to show you over here. You really do have more control over how much paint comes out. If you really reduce the paint and you just learn to control your finger. This kind of work takes more time, more experience, but it is possible to definitely work with no overspray, no splatters. And most importantly, you're able to work with no masking. And that's a pretty good definition and demonstration of air pressure and paint thickness. And you guys should have a pretty good idea of what you should and shouldn't be doing as far as this paint stuff goes. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments below. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.